Today I will run down a 2016 crime thriller film titled Girl in the Box. Please be advised that there will be spoilers ahead of this video, so chill out and enjoy it as I narrate it for you. The film opens up in 1976 with a young couple, Cameron and Janice, driving to the forest in the middle of the night in order to dispose of a body. Holding a rosary nervously, Janice worries about what they did to the girl, but Cameron tells her that it was all an accident and she should not blame herself for what has happened. Once they had finished burying the corpse, the pair hastily drove and departed the scene in the middle of the night. A year later, the movie introduces us to 22-year-old Colleen Stan, who hitches a ride on the California highway to Westwood. Cameron and Janice offer to help this poor soul with a ride to Westwood as they pass by. The two learn from Colleen that she's visiting a friend who was not expecting her after Cameron strikes up a conversation with the girl. When they make a brief stop at a gas station, Colleen goes to the restrooms to ease herself. Cameron quickly gets a wooden box out of the trunk and puts it in the back seat. The moment they continue with their journey, Cameron says he will make a stop at the caves to pick up one of his friends before heading to Westwood. Colleen is reluctant to go because she wants to be there before dark, but she accepts since she doesn't have any other choice. When the couple pulls off in a remote area, Colleen begins to suspect that something is odd. Janice moves out very quickly and instantly, Cameron presses a weapon up against Colleen's throat and shackles her hands before covering her eyes. The girl has no choice but to comply with his demands to save her life. Cameron inserts her into the wooden box as he pushes her inside the vehicle. The pair then quickly departed the area with a kidnapped girl. They had to wait until it was dark to bring the kidnapped girl into their house. Cameron pulls Colleen into the basement and ties her up on the poles. Janice just stands there and watches as he whips her mercilessly. All of this excites Cameron, who instructs Janice to retrieve a box from upstairs. Colleen gets put back in the box after he ties her to a table since he has had enough of her for the day. Janice questions her husband nervously the following morning over his plans for the girl. Cameron informs her that when he's bored with her, he'll drop her off somewhere since she doesn't know where she's right now. When Janice is by herself in the house, Colleen's non-stop crying prevents her from praying with her rosary. Then she picks up a shotgun angrily and heads downstairs to meet the girl. Colleen pleads for her release and swears that she will not tell anyone or inform the police. Janice ponders and feels empathy for her, but decides against granting Colleen's request the moment she tells her that she can make her way home since she's used to the area. Once Cameron gets home that evening with the urinal, he feeds Colleen and orders her to use it in his presence. He whips her once more while Janice makes herself listen to her headphones in order to block out Colleen's noise. Janice expresses her worry and warns her husband that if they let the girl go, she would report them to the authorities since she already knows where she's being kept. Hearing this, Cameron makes the decision to confine Colleen to the basement until they work things out. Janice agrees with the decision, but she demands that Cameron stick to confinement only and never have any relationship with her. Cameron nods in agreement and decides to make Colleen a coffin-sized box and lock her inside. The kidnapped girl feels bad about the decision she made that has put her in this predicament. Colleen regrets not listening to her father's words, who advised her to always take public transport whenever she wanted to visit home. Colleen's parents get a call from the daughter's landlord informing them that their daughter's rent is due. This alerted them. Their daughter hasn't been seen for a while. The parents get worried and take on the responsibility of notifying the police that their daughter has been missing for days. However, the police believe that she is out with her friends since she is 22 years old and old enough to make her own decisions. 6 months have passed since the couple kidnapped Colleen. Janice visits Cameron at work to let him know she is expecting to have a child, but it seems he's not happy about the news. Janice asks Cameron that since a child would be living in the house, it's probably time to get rid of Colleen so that she can go back to her parents. The husband objects to the idea, claiming that the girl might call the police and report them, and he's not ready to go to jail. The couple returned home following a knee procedure 1 month later. As they enter the house, the landlord approaches them and asks Cameron if he may have the furnace in the basement checked. Cameron replies that he will inform him when to visit in the meantime. Cameron finds a magazine on the table, where he finds a contract for an exploitative labor company. Then he decides to use it to manipulate Colleen so that he can retain her. He soon persuades Colleen that he works for a labor company. He threatens her, saying that the company will find her and harm her family if she tries to escape. Cameron even claims that Janice's leg got injured when she tried to run away from him. Janice doesn't dispute her husband's falsehood when he asserts that she was his worker but later married her after having mercy on her. Cameron threatens to have Colleen taken away by the company unless he officially registers her. The repercussions alarmed Colleen, who then signed a document to save her family. The same day, Cameron gives Colleen a tire and puts a collar around her neck. He even changed her name. She is required to treat him and Janice as her masters. When Colleen is cleaning the floor one day, She discovers a religious book and emotionally handles it. However, Janice becomes enraged with her for touching it. The woman tells Colleen that she is nothing but a painkiller to her. Then she spills a full pail of water to give her more work. As the months pass, the landlord again requests permission from Cameron to inspect the furnace in the basement so that he can get an insurance certificate. But Cameron becomes irritated and informs him that they're still busy. He informs Janice that they must relocate as soon as he enters the house. Soon after, Cameron helps his wife during delivery time and gives birth to a daughter named Amber. Janice once discovered that Colleen had forgotten to set out a fork for her at dinner. She accuses her of being dishonest and lazy. Cameron becomes upset with Colleen and whips her. But when Janice realizes the fork just dropped to the ground, she feels sorry about what she did and holds herself responsible for it. The following morning, Cameron shocks Colleen by telling her the tale of a worker who was tortured because she attempted to escape. Then he tells her again how fortunate she is to have him as her master. Cameron takes off Colleen's collar, puts her in regular clothes and drives with her. Colleen is overjoyed to go outside for the first time in months as he brings her to fetch firewood in the mountains. Colleen asks Cameron if she'll ever be able to go home, but he responds that it's unlikely because the company will only allow her to write a letter to her parents. This brings a smile to the girl's face, and she can't wait to write to them. When Cameron injures himself with the axe, Colleen is reluctant to seize the chance to run away in the woods but rather stays to assist him. When they get home, Colleen takes care of Cameron's wound. This makes Janice grow envious and do the work herself. The wife tries to have some time with her husband in the evening, but Cameron declines. Janice notices that he seems to care more about Colleen than her recently, and she then wonders if he still loves her as much as he used to. Cameron keeps silent but rushes to the box to release Colleen. Janice finds this to be disrespectful to her and storms out of the room. The argument becomes heated, and then she tells Cameron to put Colleen back and to avoid ever touching her again. 3 years have now passed, but Cameron and Janice are still holding Colleen captive. When Janice opens the door to take a urinal out of the box one day, Colleen notices Amber has grown up and starts to wonder how long it has been since her kidnapping. The family decides to spend some good time together at lake, but they leave Colleen in the box. Because a malfunctioning ventilation system causes the intense heat to make her wake up, the girl kicks the box fiercely till it bursts open. Just then, Cameron and his wife showed up from the lake. The husband finds out right away that the box is shattered and Colleen is missing. After searching the entire house, he discovers her hiding in the bathroom with a Bible wrapped around her arm. She claims that she was thirsty as an excuse for the shattered box. Colleen says she's searching for clarification on God's promise to have a reason for everything. Cameron opens the Bible and annotates a page about slaves having to submit to their masters after recalling what Colleen had said. When Cameron doesn't fulfill what he intended, he informs Janice that they must let her out of the box and let her be part of their family. He cites the Bible as justification for a man's right to many wives. She agrees because Janice wants to make things right for them. Cameron opens and lets Colleen out of the box to feed her. But later, he ties her up and gives her a whipping. Once he leaves the house in the morning, Janice seizes the chance to open the box and read the Bible with Colleen. She instructs the girl to refer to her as Jane rather than ma'am. After reading the chapter about Abraham's slave Hagar and his wife Sarah, Janice explains to Colleen why she thinks they are similar to the two ladies. She proceeds to inform her that they need to learn how to get along and share Cameron. It has been 5 years since Colleen was abducted, and at last, Cameron begins to treat her as his wife. He tells her that there was a reason why God had brought them together and that they might possibly get married and start a family. Colleen then begs him to allow her to visit her family. This makes Cameron upset, and then he decides to send her back to the box. Janice and Colleen go to church together a few days later. However, Janice trembles as she recalls her transgressions since she feels that the Reverend's speech is a little too personal for her. She holds Colleen's hand in consolation to show how she feels her pain. Janice returns home and finds it increasingly difficult to put up with her abusive husband. She begins to have more empathy for Colleen and thinks they should let her go home. As time passes, Cameron informs Colleen that the company has allowed her to visit her family. The girl becomes happy about the news, but Cameron tells her that before he takes her, she must complete some obedience training. Cameron takes her to the backyard and gives her a gun before instructing her to aim the barrel and pull the trigger. Colleen cries and obeys. Lucky for her, the gun has no bullets in it. Cameron gives her a contented glance and drives Colleen to her parents' house the following morning. But before Colleen meets her parents, he warns her not to make any stupid mistakes because the company will be watching all over the house. Cameron poses as her boyfriend and doesn't stay long to meet all of Colleen's family. He leaves after informing her that he will return to pick her up at the end of the weekend. Colleen's parents are ecstatic to see her again. But Bonnie can't help but feel that something is wrong with her sister and wants to talk about it. However, the father doesn't want her to bring up the subject because he believes it would spoil their moment. Bonnie insists on getting the truth by pressing her to tell her what's wrong the first thing in the morning. Colleen fears the company might be listening to them, so she resists and sidesteps the subject. Cameron comes back before the weekend is over to take her away. He informs the parents that, after a long courtship with Colleen, they intend to tie the knot shortly. This news makes Colleen's parents very happy, but Bonnie inquires as to where they currently reside because she intends to join them very soon. Once Cameron replies that they're staying in California, Bonnie confirmed her doubts because Colleen had already told her they were staying in Oregon. Once the two come back home during the night, Janice hears Cameron discussing it with Colleen and expresses his desire to begin a family with her. Janice becomes furious about it and wants to be divorced from her husband. She starts packing her belongings in the morning, and when Cameron notices her walking away, he orders her to return inside. But Janice has had enough of his behavior. She tells him she's going to report his actions to the authorities before she drives out with Amber and her father. When Colleen tries to console the upset Cameron, he becomes more enraged, so he decides to take her into his shack's basement. He tells her that he will be joining her soon before shutting the door. Janice cries as she prays by herself in a church, holding herself responsible for her and her husband's inhuman behaviors. Colleen is still in the basement, shivering from the chilly downpour. Janice comes back to the house and unlocks the basement door. She gives Colleen clothes before instructing her to go. When she tries to ask whether it will not infuriate Cameron, Janice tells her that prior to her kidnapping, she and her husband held a female captive named Marlitz. Cameron made her believe that it would just be a game, but she wouldn't stop crying when he took her to their home. Cameron killed her as a result, and they buried her body in the woods. Because of how terrifying this experience was for Janice, she prayed non-stop in the hope that God would forgive her sins. Cameron heads back home shortly with a shovel before heading to the shack. But Janice has already driven Colleen to the bus stop by the time he gets there. Colleen is told to go home by Janice when the bus arrives, but she is hesitant because she thinks the company will be able to track her back. Janice discloses to her that her husband was never a part of any company and that everything was made up to retain her. The girl exits the vehicle and boards the bus as she wonders and can't believe the reality. Cameron sobs uncontrollably in the house when he realizes that the girl has escaped. Cameron received a 104-year prison term for his wicked actions, but Janice was granted prosecution immunity in exchange for her testimony against her husband. Despite her testimony about Marlitz's death, the body remained undiscovered until now. This brings the movie to an end. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to watch more of my videos. Have a good day.